Welcome to The Free Bin, a podcast of the Toledo Public Library. I'm Sophia.
I'm Harrison.
And I'm Cindy.
And, I'm taking lead on this.
You're taking the lead.
I'm taking lead. Okay. We are talking about mummies again. And we're, yes, louder. We've had some episodes that have touched on like Unknown Man E, and we've touched on mummies before, but I want to continue a kind of annual-ish tradition I've had here on the show, where I want to hit all our universal monsters in sequence. So we did a vampire episode and talked about Bela Lugosi, and we have also done a werewolf episode and the history of werewolf trials. And this one I want to go deep on, and I've been kind of chewing on this episode for a while because there's a lot to talk about. So we want to talk about mummies as characters in fiction and Egyptian mummies, and why Egyptian mummies seem to be villains in a lot of Western media.
Yep.
And there's a lot of interesting history there and some context. And we're also going to be talking about all of our other mummies throughout the world, and and why they haven't maybe been so prominently featured.
It's exciting, I guess.
Oh, they're exciting. I have ideas, and I'll be sharing those as we get to it. Okay. I have a premise which you're free to challenge or elaborate or blow out of the water.
Yes.
So what do we have on our calendar coming up?
All right. Whoops. Well,
I switched pads on you. Sorry. I had to get to the mummy. That's always the right sound.
I'm sorry. I meant to turn it off, and I can't get blowing the air horn.
I set it up so you can't turn it off. You can just do it more.
Okay. We have some really exciting stuff coming up. So on the 29th, in lieu of story time, we're going to have a costume party. So if you normally come to story time, you bring your preschooler or school-age kid to story time, come and celebrate, and come in your best costume. We're going to have a lot of fun games. We're going to have prizes. We're going to have snacks. We're going to have drinks. There's going to be a photo booth. Come prepared to have a lot of fun. That's on the 29th at 10:30 a.m. And then 2 days later, on Halloween, we're going to have trick-or-treat at the library. So stop by the library during open hours for candy. Come trick-or-treat. Come say hi. And then downtown, we will have some volunteers handing out candy on Main Street as well from 3:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, yeah, come say hi. And tomorrow we have a mask event. Come to the library from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Create your own mask.
And we will try not to eat all of the candy before you get here. We'll have plenty.
We're doing our best.
Yeah. To eat it or to have plenty?
Both.
Okay. And I will say, I am okay with anybody coming to trick or treat. I'd prefer to see you in costume at the library, but if you can convince me that what you're wearing is a costume, I'll give you candy.
Yeah.
Okay, so, just challenge.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
You can say you're wearing a historical costume from the perspective of the future. And
there you
dressed
go.
As a early 21st century American.
Okay. I would take that, but then I'll hand candy out to anybody. So I just like to hear your creative responses.
Yes.
All right. Sophia's got the beverage here for us today.
Oh, yes. I already forgot. So today we're doing a Trader Joe's brewed ginger beer, non-alcoholic sparkling beverage, and we're going to compare that with the ginger beer from last week that I didn't get to try. Mm-hmm. And hopefully they're both really good. We'll find out.
I wanted to make sure I got another cock and bowl as reference because I know how much Cindy enjoyed the first one.
Right. Okay, ready? Here we go.
Ready.
Oh. It's just medicinal.
Oh, it does smell medicinal. Like if you had like a upset tummy, perfect.
Ugh. Sorry. I have discovered through this process that I do not like ginger anything.
Oh no.
It's so sweet.
It's a little closer to like what is it? Canada Dry or a Schweppes ginger ale.
Ooh.
It's like halfway between the Cock and Bull or the other one, Reed's, and ginger ale. I might drink this with a cold, just for nostalgia's sake. It's that kind of. It's a little milder than the Cock and Bull. So while we're so jazzed about this.
Let's do another one.
I'll pop open the Cock and Bull.
Yay.
So Sophia can get at it.
Yay.
This is so great. This is like if cough drop was a sparkling beverage.
Yeah.
That's how it tastes to me.
Yeah, it does. And I like ginger ale. I will admit, I like ginger ale like Schweppes or, but this, I don't know what it is. Is it?
It's like spicy.
Well, obviously,
sweet.
Schweppes ginger ale or whatever brand that you prefer is not true ginger beer. Because I like you. This just makes me think of being sick in my bed and my mother spoon feeding me cough syrup.
Yeah, that's how it tastes.
Ugh, and it's
Like
got
in
an
the cartoons.
aftertaste.
Yeah, it does. Very gingery aftertaste.
Yeah.
But it reminds you of the cartoons. If they give you like a spoonful of like cough syrup,
Right.
that's how this
Cod
feels.
liver oil.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I like this one. It's a little, to me, it's a little milder, easier.
It is
on the
milder.
throat.
But it's sweeter. It's like, and I think that's what I don't like. I'm gonna like one.
And Sophia, have you had a Cock and Bull on its own? Are you
No. Do
a
you wanna
Moscow
try this
Mule
again?
enjoyer?
I'm okay. You guys try the Cock and Bull.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, I got one over here.
Oh.
All right. Comparison.
Salute. That was a mistake. Oh no.
The Cock and Bull hits harder on the back end.
Oh,
That's what it is.
It really hit in the back of your throat.
Oh.
It's like it's like the Trader Joe's one. You taste the ginger up front, and the mule mixer, the Cock and Bull, you feel it going down.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was
It's
pretty hippie.
spicy. It's warm. It's gross.
I'm like, oh my god.
I could have told you that.
Oh, that was really just not.
You drink them both together. It's just the full experience.
It's like a really terrible. What's that alcoholic beverage? A Fireball. It's like a really terrible Fireball. Oh yeah.
All right.
Well,
I like the Trader Joe's. Like it's because it doesn't burn like the Cock and Bull, but it's still punchy. I like it.
I think it's the lemon and lime, making it more pleasant and medicinal.
Yeah, but if a drink makes you flinch, is that something you really want to drink?
No, I never want to have these beverages again in my life. No.
I don't think so. I think we need to move on to something better next time. They have a new Faygo, I saw.
Oh.
So maybe we need to pick up a new Faygo.
Yeah, something
Okay.
pleasant and enjoyable.
Yes.
That will bring us joy
Okay.
and whimsy
And sugar.
and sugar.
And a sugar rush.
70 grams.
That's right.
All right. Well, I'll lead off our discussion if we're ready with a
Yes.
little bit of context and a little discussion of the Egyptian side of things.
I'm very ready.
Which will be useful when we get into our fictional depictions and the historical context in which those took place.
Yes.
I'm ready.
As we discussed in our Unknown Man E episode that you can go back and have a listen to, Egypt has a super long and complicated history. For this episode, much of the background we need comes from understanding ancient Egyptian funerary practices and much later Egyptian political history, like 18th to early 20th century context. So let's start with the mummies. Oh, that ginger beer's coming back.
Just like the mummy.
Egyptian mummification. They can find evidence of this starting around 2800 BCE. The full process with evisceration and the refined embalming practices were going on by about 2600 BCE. Egyptian mummification depends on natron, a naturally occurring salt that was used in antiquity to make soap, mouthwash, antiseptics, bleach, smokeless fuel for indoor illumination, and insecticides, as well as for preservation of food and leather preparation. Ancient Egyptian embalming methods involved packing the body with natron inside and out for a total period of 70 days after cleaning the body and removing the organs. After this process was complete, the body looked much as it would for the next few thousand years given proper storage conditions. Descriptions of this process often come from the Greco-Roman period, from the start of the Greek period, 300-ish BC, to the end of the Roman period, 600-ish AD. Funerary customs evolved over time, but mummification in some form continued into the Roman period. Herodotus broke down Egyptian mummification into three basic tiers. Royalty and other wealthy Egyptians got the full version, the, quote, most perfect embalming method, with the brain removal, 70-day natron desiccation, evisceration, herbs and spices, elaborate wrappings, the prayers, the amulets, the whole deal that we all kind of know, the full process.
Right.
Below this, middle-class folks could secure an embalming with some cost-cutting measures. The abdominal cavity would be injected with cedar oil, the 70-day embalming would go forth, and then the contents of the abdomen, which would be broken down by the cedar oil during the natron fixation, that would be drained, and the body would be returned to the family. One of my favorite kinds of like archaeological finds is when they find graves and find ways that a mortician cheaped out and figured no one would ever see. And you find weird stuff, and you can find that from Egyptian burials and all over the world, because sometimes people get in a rush and they got to fit that in there somehow. So regular working folks had a third option. The GI tract would be flushed with a cleaning agent, 70 days in the natron, and that's it. Back to the family. Mima's taking the freight elevator to the Duat, and hopefully Amit's just going to waver through. I think it's kind of like the, when you sometimes go to a movie theater and you buy your ticket, but then it's during like the time of the day when nobody's actually checking the ticket. I think you're like hoping for maybe that. You're just like, you arrive at the afterlife. The scale's broken to weigh your heart, and Amit's been eating hearts all day, and she's throwing up, and they're just like, go on through. It's fine. Go on through. Did they wash your butt? It's fine. Go on through. All right. So that's mummification in the Egyptian method. So I'm going to do a quick as I can run through of later Egyptian history, because this is when the Egyptian mummy fiction in Western literature starts coming out. So beginning in 1517, Egypt was part of the Ottoman Empire, which took a largely hands-off approach, leaving the area in the control of the Mamluk military class, who had been running the place since the 13th century. In 1798, Napoleon Bonaparte led a campaign in Egypt and Syria to cut off British trade routes to India and take control of Egypt, leading to a brief French occupation of southern Egypt. In 1799, the Ottoman Empire started fighting back to take control from the French, and in this they got support from the British. They managed to drive the French out in 1801, at which time a complicated three-way civil war erupted between the Mamluks, the Ottoman Turks, and the Ottoman Viceroy of Albania, Muhammad Ali, not the boxer, who would win out and take Egypt into the modern age as its leader from 1805 to 1848. With only a formal connection to the Ottoman Empire. Sort of like Canada is sort of technically a British thing, but we all know not really, right? His dynasty would remain in power until the Egyptian Revolution in 1952, which pushed out the British, who took over Egypt in 1882 from Muhammad's son Ibrahim during the Anglo-Egyptian War and controlled it to various degrees and in various forms for the next 70 years. Read more about this history if you really like reading the term de facto. A lot of de facto situations in Egypt when it came to who was in charge during this couple hundred years. A lot of agreements, polite fictions, we're in charge, but not. This guy's running things, but he's it's complicated. It's always been complicated. It's always been an important place. Mm-hmm. So that is that ever-changing murky landscape of politics and colonial politics will be the backdrop of the Egyptian section of our topic today. And with that, I'm going to shut up.
No, it's great.
Move to the backdrop because Sophia's been doing some research on what people were doing with the bodies of mummified ancient Egyptians in the centuries after.
It's so gross. The Europeans committed, I don't know, what's the best term? Committed cannibalism? What's a good term?
We're cannibalistic.
They were cannibals. There we go.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
I just want to clarify, they're not that way now.
No, but there was a time.
There was a time.
There was a time.
It was prolific, and we're going to get into it.
Okay.
Okay. So the use of mummies as a drug was widespread in Europe from the 12th century to the 17th century. And I want to point out that during this time, there were other cultures who committed cannibalism. I really don't know what's the best term to put that, but anyway,
did a cannibalism,
and it was considered savage. And they were savage. It was beneath the Europeans, but here they were being cannibals, doing the same thing. So anyway, just want to point that out. And moving on, mummified cats were used as fertilizer in the late 1800s. And were sold domestically and abroad as fertilizer, including England being a participant.
I would think all the salt would make them like bad fertilizer.
Yeah.
Huh.
These farmers.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah. Okay. Okay. Cats. Okay. What else we
Cats. In the late 1840s, ground up human and cat mummies were used in paint called mummy brown. But this practice was phased out in the 1960s due to the lack of supplies of mummies.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm going to go to the paint store and I'm looking for mummy brown.
I found an anecdote when I was doing research. The early 20th, the late 19th century. In 1881, the English pre-Raphaelite painter Edward Burne-Jones got curious about where mummy brown came from. He thought it was just descriptive,
right?
Like forest green.
Right.
And when he learned that it was made out of people, he took his only tube of it and gave it a proper burial. Never used it again.
That.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, well, first of all, what color was mummy brown? And
It's a good brown.
It was a good brown. And they found it was hard to recreate because...
Well, yeah, because humans are unique.
We make a good paint.
The process of mummification, the things they used in the mummification made for good brown paint, apparently.
Including the human body. Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Go on.
Okay, mummy brown.
Mummy brown.
That's going to stick in my head for a while.
During the Victorian era, English surgeon Thomas Pettigrew transitioned from unwrapping mummies for scientific benefit to unwrapping mummies as entertainment at parties. But this practice eventually fell out of favor when people agreed that human remains should be treated with more respect.
Well, that's nice.
That's nice. Took
nice.
A while, but that's nice. Ground up mummies were prescribed as a medicine as early as the 16th century, and this medicine was called mummia and could be ingested or rubbed onto a wound. It was thought to cure everything from coughs to epilepsy. It was even used by royals such as King Francis I of France and King Charles II of England to protect their health. So even though this is clearly cannibalism, consuming mummies and using them as medicine was not viewed in a negative light, like I said earlier.
It's medicinal, you see. It's quite... There's nothing strange about it. I'm just going to eat that fellow, and it's quite reasonable, you see. I'm a man of science, after all.
Oh, my.
So the mummies were stolen from their Egyptian tombs, graves were robbed, and Irish skulls were taken from burial sites. Because Europeans did not limit their cannibalism to ground-up mummies for tinctures. For several hundred years, beginning in the 16th and 17th centuries, many Europeans, including royalty, priests, and scientists, routinely ingested remedies containing human bones, blood, and fat as a medicine for everything from headaches to epilepsy.
Ugh.
So this, the use of human remains in medicine fit with leading medical theories at the time, and it was thought to be homeopathic in nature. So, for example, you drink blood for diseases of the blood, or you use a skull for ailments of the head.
Oh, that makes total sense.
Oh, yeah,
Duh.
total sense.
Duh. So an example would be ground up skull and chocolate were used as a drink to cure internal bleeding, such as a stroke. Human fat was used to treat the outside of the body, such as a remedy for gout. And bandages were even soaked in it and wrapped around wounds. And another specialty, the moss that grew on human skulls was thought to cure nosebleeds and epilepsy.
The moss.
The moss
Okay.
that grew on human skulls.
Well, and I've heard about moss being used to pack wounds to keep, for the blood, to stop the bleeding. But I don't know that the moss on human skulls.
I mean, that one I'm willing to go with a little more than just like the eating people part, because I don't know, maybe that moss does. A lot of plants do stuff. I am not a doctor. I'm just, don't take this advice. Don't go eating skull moss. But I'm willing to say, hey, let's test that moss.
Yeah, not the skull.
Not the skull. Put the skull back, please.
So, did it work? I mean, they used it. So, was there any evidence that's actually worked?
I don't know.
I mean, that would be. I don't. I mean, a lot of times those kinds of things act like a placebo.
I think it was a placebo.
So, this must work. But in reality, maybe it's just that you're thinking it works, and so you get better.
Yeah.
And I think also if you're feeding a patient pieces of dead bodies, at a certain point, they're going to tell you they feel better to get you to stop, I think.
Well, yeah, there's always that too. Yeah.
King Charles II had a king's tincture of alcohol and ground up skull. I don't know. I can't remember what it was meant to cure, but it was just for him.
Just for him. Just
and how did he fare?
Your king can have a little human skull as a treat.
I don't know anything about him, so I'm wondering, was he one of those crazy English kings? Or,
I think so.
and can we trace that back to
regularly
his king's tincture? Oh my
Let's
gosh.
see.
And then we've talked about this too, the culture of the time, and we are looking back on knowing medical science like we do. It's like that superstition and old world science and somebody saying, some doctor saying, oh, hey, heck, this might work. Let's try this.
The past is another country.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm just thankful that my doctor does not recommend these things for me.
A king's tincture of ground up skull and alcohol for all of your ailments.
Well, I'm not a king, so there you go.
And the alcohol,
I get the citizen one.
I do think it's interesting with tinctures. A lot of things mixed with alcohol will kind of make you feel better because they're mixed with alcohol.
Yeah, and he was just slowly pickling himself. So
They thought his death was hastened by his doctors because his doctors gave him a whole bunch of different homeopathic stuff. Bitter powder, peony water, briny compound, and white hellebore. So he had a convulsion and then he died.
So we can't really reliably say that it worked.
No.
Okay.
How are you feeling? Would you like poison or skulls? I'll take the skulls, please. I suppose I'll have the skulls. If it's binary option.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh dear.
I'm sorry to our British friends and listeners for my terrible British accent.
Yeah.
And characterizations.
Yes. But we are looking at the past. Just
All
keep that in mind.
Yes. We have the luxury of looking back upon this and saying, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. So does that make it valuable?
Does that make what valuable?
The whole process that we have learned not to do that. So when you look, like you said, we're looking back on the past. So their trial and error taught us something. Not that it's good by any means, but
we learn from mistakes.
Yeah,
Now
just as well as we learn from doing it right. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
we're all just doing the
that was a side
best we can.
And not eating ground up skulls.
Yes. And we're all doing things that in another 300 years, people will look back and say, what were they doing?
Thinking?
How did they do this?
Why on earth? Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
Why did we drink ginger beer?
That's right.
Didn't they know? How did they not know?
They did not know what's in that.
It was awful.
And, and in speaking about all these things, it's easy to speak in generalities. So whether we're talking about the ancient Egyptians, about, the English, kind of recently, relatively speaking, compared to 3,000-4,000 years ago, there are always going to be people, who bury their tube of paint when they find out it's made out of real mummies. There's going to be variation, people in the minority on, who are looking around at whatever's going on saying, you guys don't really believe this, do you? It's just, it may be not recorded. It may be dangerous to say so in certain contexts, but as far back as we have documentation, we know there are always people who are not fully on board. Right. Maybe they get the mummification, but they don't believe that literally your heart's going to be weighed against a feather and all of this. It's a respectful funeral for Poopa, right? And there's always going to be variation. Yeah.
Okay. What else we got?
Oh, that's it.
That's it for mummy uses?
Isn't that enough?
Well, what else can I do with it?
There's a lot more, but I decided to
that probably
compile a digestible amount of facts.
Yes.
About cannibalism. Acceptable cannibalism, apparently.
Digestible's a good word.
Yeah.
According to European society. At the time.
Oh, dear.
So Cindy's going to lead us into our discussion of mummy movies. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And we can talk about, I also want to talk about some early Egyptian mummy fiction. But I think we should also pause on the Egyptians because they take the ancient Egyptians take a lot of the mummy glory, but people have been mummifying each other intentionally and accidentally all over the world for forever. So I think we're going to pause, or not pause, but transition into a discussion of all our other mummies that we have.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Okay.
That sounds good.
So do you want me to do the Egyptian mummies, the movies, or do you want to do your other mummies first?
Which do we want to do? Do we want to do the talk all mummies and then talk about the fiction, or do we want to talk mummy movies?
Let's do all mummies and then I'll tell you about the fiction part.
Oh, yeah. We can end on a good note.
Yeah.
Okay.
On a happier note.
And then I'll also, and then I'll talk about why I think, my hypothesis of why Egyptian mummies have been treated differently in Western media than other mummies.
Okay. Okay.
But I'll talk. Do you want to talk? Do you have mummies for us today, Cindy? Or are you going to focus on?
I have mummies from the movies.
From the movies,
yes.
Okay.
And that's about all I have because I knew you guys were doing like the other mummies.
I'll talk about my mummies.
Okay.
The mummies that my ancestors made and were sometimes which is bog people in Europe, Scandinavia, Ireland, Germany.
The place with a bog.
The place with the bogs. That were a lot is not known due to, there not being a literate culture there that left written records, which of course is never to say that there wasn't a thriving, complex culture in place. It's just one of those that did not leave as many material things behind and written records that were recorded by either themselves or others. The Romans kind of did their own thing once they started moving north into those areas. So the bodies are kind of decontextualized in a way. We can see that a lot of them were killed, whether they were murdered or sacrificed or what is still kind of up in the air, which is different from, say, the Egyptian mummies, where we have documentation, lots of documentation from the time of who these people were. Sometimes there's still a lot of speculation. So kind of the bodies are one of, the relatively few material things left from those cultures in the case of the bog bodies, which is interesting.
It was a different climate too. Those countries were colder and wetter, and mummification in the, just by virtue of nature, where something's left in a cave and it mummifies itself. I don't know that was feasible in those cultures because of the different climate.
And it seems that they would have known that bodies would be preserved, because they also find things like butter that's been wrapped and thrown into bogs. There's bog butter, so it was being used. Sometimes it appears intentionally since antiquity to preserve things, but whether that quality of the bog had significance as to why bodies were put there, whether it was just to cover up a murder sometimes, or whether it was part of a ritual thing, I think is still speculated on. Kind of like, like we've talked about, like the Inca, when they would offer humans as a religious practice, they knew the bodies would be preserved by the cold, but whether or not that was part of the religious practice or belief, whether that factored into the act is not, I don't know if that's fully clear.
Right.
But jump in on me. Let us know. And I'll fill in those gaps.
I think ritualistically speaking, the Egyptians had a whole ritual for burial, and they had reasons behind that. They wanted to send whoever it was into the afterlife with that's why we have Coptic jars that have the organs in them.
Canopic jars.
Canoptic, thank you. Canoptic jars. And that's why we have those. They go in the tomb with the mummy and the animals and sometimes the servants, and they are there for the afterlife to give them what they need to be in the afterlife. So apparently you don't go to the afterlife. They don't give you, it's not like an all expense, all, amenities trip to the afterlife. You don't get those things. You have to bring them with you. But their mummification process is really pretty, very ritualistic and definitely tied to their religious beliefs.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Do you have any more bog body stories you want to?
There are bog bodies in Florida. The Windover site, it's a neutral pH, so the soft tissues aren't preserved. So it's bones. They're very old. I think they're like 9,000 years old, dated to. But the brain tissue is preserved.
That's interesting.
Which is really, really interesting.
How do you study brain tissue?
I need to look more into it. I was just
have
watching.
follow-up questions.
Yeah. Sophia has some that are a little bit closer to home here.
A little bit.
Nearer than compared to the Germans.
Yeah. I have some Latin American mummies. So the Chinchorro culture of South America was a culture that were around from 7,000 BCE to 1500 BCE. So they were a culture that was primarily sedentary fishermen inhabiting the Pacific coastal region of current northern Chile and southern Peru. So they had a culture of mummification, very different than the Egyptian mummification. The process is very different. And their practices were the result of parental grief rather than a reflection of the social position of the deceased, because the mummies were, the mummification was practiced on infants and small children. So what they would do is they would kind of deflesh the body, starting by scalping the hair. The bodies would then be buried, exhumed, and the bones were cleaned of all remaining soft tissue. And then the bones would be reassembled with canes and ties to reinforce the skeleton. Their body was modeled with clay. And then they would cover the body with patches of skin, either the skin that was removed or an animal skin. And then they were painted in black manganese, and then a short black wig and black mask were added to the final touches. But there are also red ones, bandaged mummies, and mud-coated mummies. So these mummies were, one was found to date back to 6,600 years ago.
Wow.
So very different.
Funerary practices are always an act of care.
Yeah.
Whether you're sending things to a professional or whether the family's doing it themselves or the community is doing it collectively, it's an act of love.
Yeah.
And when you said that this is an act of parental care, that's just really nice.
Yeah.
Well, and you think about even the act of I think it's in, correct me if I'm wrong, in Jewish culture, there's a whole ritual there, and bodies are laid out by family members. And back pioneer days, back in, those were the things that they did. It was cleaning the body and dressing the body and putting it, on whatever, if you were having a moment of display, I hate that word, but a time when people could come and say goodbye and have closure, then there is that element of care and working through that process, the realization that somebody's really gone, being able to process all of that.
Yeah.
So.
But continue. I kind of jumped in there.
Oh, no, that's okay. I think the last thing that I was going to mention was kind of touch on what you talked about, was that this went on for 4 millennia. So this combined their anatomical knowledge with funerary traditions that were passed from generation to generation. So they didn't have professional mummifiers like they did in Egypt. So the body was treated individually by the family. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's our modern death care industry is very modern. Like you were saying, it's kind of maybe more resembles like the ancient Egyptian kind of centralized process where somebody goes. But throughout the world, it was always been kind of standard for it to be a community family thing, although not necessarily the extent that the Chinchorro people did, like in terms of taking care of that body in such a way that it's still here. It's still here.
Yep.
I got to sit with that for a minute, because like it does mean something like a little different when it's not when it appears to be a family thing. Like that's, you're still seeing somebody's kid because the parents themselves made sure they'd still be here.
To preserve, yeah.
Interesting. Well, Do you want me to move on to Egyptians and the modern movie take of them?
Can I do a little bit of a transition?
You can do your transition, because actually I was going to ask you to do your transition, and then I have a couple other things.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about some 19th century mummy stories.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
A really early one is The Mummy's Foot by the French writer Theophile Gautier from 1840. And it's a short story. It's entertaining. It's not a horror story. And I think that's kind of interesting. And keep in mind, so this is the time, the French had just 40 years before had their meddling in Egypt. So it's all in that context. It's about a man who finds a mummified foot in an antique shop. He has a dream of the princess Hermonthis, whose foot it was, and she wants her foot back. And so he travels in his dream and meets her father, Zigzathros, and he returns the foot, and he asks for Hermonthis' hand in marriage, and that's declined on the basis that he's 27 years old and she's 3,000 years old. And
she's too old for you, son.
She offers to give him a statuette in place of the foot, which he's been using as a paperweight. And when he wakes up from his dream, there is a statuette on his desk where the foot was. Jumping forward a bit, an early Gothic horror story, Lot Number 249 by Arthur Conan Doyle, friend of the pod, who we've discussed, believed in fairies. And it was published in Harper's Magazine in 1892, and it's about an Oxford student, and there's somebody has a mummy and brings it back to life, and it chases people around. That's the quickest. It's fun. It's a good story, but just to summarize that, it's very much kind of sets a template of mummy gets set loose and is attacking people. And in 1922, the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb revived popular interest in ancient Egypt and kicked off another wave of Egyptomania and influenced fashion and design, including the Art Deco movement.
Yeah.
So, it kind of ties into our bridge over in Newport and all of that.
Yeah.
So that brings us up to the film, the age of film.
Okay. So I want to talk about a couple of books before I talk about the films, because the books have been there. Mummies are a big deal in books, but you mentioned Doyle writing one. Bram Stoker also wrote a mummy book called The Jewel of Seven Stars. And a mummy queen is raised from the dead, possessed by said mummy's queen, or the daughter is possessed by the queen's soul and has to bring the dead to life. And it's very much this typical mummy story prior to other stuff. But Anne Rice, a very familiar writer, has written a whole series called The Mummy, or Ramses the Damned, which is a novel. There's a whole series of those. There's a series about an Egyptologist, Amelia Peabody series that is by Elizabeth Peters. That kind of brings us, after we've talked about the books, that kind of brings us back to the evolution of mummy movies. And I know that Harrison is a little bit more prepared to talk about the earliest mummy movies because his favorite mummy hangs around in those.
Team Karis.
Yep. But I wanted to talk a little bit because we kind of touched on it. So I'm reading from a site, and I'm going to go back and really explore this. It's the Natural History Museum of Utah, and they have a series of talks about Egyptian mummies and mummies in general by Egyptologists. So that might be something to go back and look at. But how did we get from Egyptians doing the mummification to the Western caricatures of mummies? How did we get there that came out in the movies? And this is interesting because I really didn't think about it. And I've read a lot about the Howard Carter expedition into the Valley of the Kings. I was so privileged to see the King Tut displays that came. They actually came through Butte, Montana a long time ago to the university there. And I got to go to that museum exhibit, which was fascinating. But so here's what happened is British archaeologist Howard Carter had an expedition to the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, and they found and opened the tomb of the pharaoh Tutankhamun. And the discovery made headlines all around the world. It was huge. It was huge because the tomb was intact, because there's so much stuff shoved into this tomb that was not done methodically. It was done quickly, but nobody could figure out why. He was very young, and the expedition happened and all this stuff around it, but then weird things started happening. Oh, no. So, let's see. The expedition's financial backer died from an infected mosquito bite. And a novelist suggested that was the result of a curse. All right. So the press ran with the idea that the story was that the tomb was cursed. Mm-hmm. And the story became more hyped as it was repeated. Newspapers even mistranslated actual Egyptian writings to be more consistent with the idea of a terrible curse. And the narrative was so entrenched that the death of anyone who had been on the expedition or visited the tomb was attributed to the curse, regardless of the cause. So Hollywood, of course, picked it up and ran with it. Mm-hmm. There were several, but by the time of the Carter expedition, there had been several mummy-themed movies, 1899 Cleopatra's Tomb, 1911 Mummy, which both focused on reanimated mummies terrorizing the modern world. But America's fascination with ancient Egypt had grown because it was I love this. It was fascinating. It was so different from what we were experiencing, what people were experiencing in America. And the Art Deco style, like you said, there was a movie theater called the Egyptian, which there are still movie theaters called that.
Yeah, Grauman's Egyptian Theater.
Yeah. And then, of course, the murmurings about an ancient curse and public fascination with the culture of ancient Egypt naturally led famed monster actor Boris Karloff to play the titular mummy in 1932. Although the portrayal wasn't quite the stereotyped monster we know today. And it really wasn't. Karloff only appeared as a mummy during the film's opening because that was, part of the plot. But it wasn't until Universal started making their monster movies that we really see the mummy kind of become the villain that it is. And you are a fan of King Karas, and I'm going to let you talk about that.
He's not a king. Should have been. Wasn't. But I'll say one thing, and then I'm going to pitch back to Sophia here, because Sophia's got some updates on the eating.
And I do have a couple more things about modern mummy movies.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We'll circle back, but I wanted to talk about Boris Karloff a little bit, just because it's not really connected, but the whole world is connected in its a way, just because of his background as an actor. He never legally changed his name to Boris Karloff. His name was William Henry Pratt, And even when he signed autographs, he would always sign his name William Henry
Isn't
Pratt,
that funny?
AKA Boris Karloff. He picked the name because it sounded more exotic that, and European than William Pratt. But he, of course, he was British. His family was, his ancestry was English and Indian. He was from a family that was very respectable within the British Empire. He was very much like a child of the British Empire as an Anglo-Indian, a British Indian man and an actor. But there's question about whether he changed his name, because, or he used the stage name because he thought it would embarrass his family to have an actor in the family, which doesn't appear to be true because everyone was very proud of him. But it's just fascinating to me that all of the meddling with Egyptian artifacts and taking mummies and other artifacts and history out of Egypt is tied up with the French messing around in Egypt, trying to disrupt Britain's connection to India. And who's the actor who would end up playing the scary mummy is a guy with English and British Indian ancestry. I don't know. It's just fascinating. And so that ties into my idea that I think that there's the mummy the Egyptian mummy as a monster is related to kind of post-colonial anxieties. But anyway, I'll get back to that. Sophia's got an update on eating people.
Oh, yes. Quick clarification. So using mummies as medicine started in the 12th century, but really peaked in the 16th century. Just wanted to clarify that before we moved on. Okay, bye.
Okay. All right. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about mummies in theater and in movies, because obviously the 1932 movie was a part of the Universal Monsters. They had done Frankenstein and they had done the Wolfman. There's a whole series of those, the Invisible Man, and they did the Mummy. And we are all familiar, probably those of us who watch these kinds of things, of the Mummy movie, which has spawned multiple sequels. But this one, made in 1999, is the action adventure film that was written and directed by Stephen Sommers. It has our favorite Brendan Fraser, my favorite, Rachel Weisz, John Hannah, and Arnold Vosloo as the monster, the mummy. It's a remake of the 1932 film, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that because this is I learned a lot that I had no idea went on with this film. And after thinking about the curse from it, I'm thinking, oh, maybe there's something to that. So it started out in the 1980s. They wanted to make a remake of The Mummy. And Universal said, yeah, go ahead, but keep the budget low. We're not going to do a big blockbuster film. We're going to keep the budget around $10 million, which is very low for a movie, even in the 80s. And so they wrote the film treatment. Universal wanted an unstoppable mummy like the Terminator. Okay, that's what they wanted. And so the story took place in the present. And just to quote Bernstein, who is the guy who said that Universal wanted it like the Terminator said, the mummy had no more social interaction than the Tyrannosaurus Rex did in Jurassic Park. That's kind of what they were shooting for. And the director went, nah, it's not my thing. And the script was abandoned. Then they recruited Clive Barker, who is a horror filmmaker, to direct. This was after his success with Hellraiser.
We have such sights to show you.
Yes.
I love Hellraiser.
Barker's 1990 treatment. This was in 1990. And then 1991 screenplay were dark and violent, with the story revolving around an art museum that rebuilds an entire Egyptian tomb in Beverly Hills. And then that didn't work out, and so they brought on another guy, and he pitched a more straightforward update of the 1932 film, again focusing on the mummy as a relentless Terminator-like character. They attached Joe Dante as the director. They wanted to increase the budget because he wanted Daniel Day-Lewis to be the mummy.
That would have been awful, dealing with Daniel Day-Lewis method acting the mummy. Nobody can have a conversation with him because he's just going,
it's set in contemporary times and focused on reincarnation with elements of a love story. It came close to being made, and some of the elements of the flesh, like the flesh-eating scarabs, made it into the final product. We all know the flesh-eating scarabs from The Mummy.
Terrifying.
But Universal said, nope, no more money. So another guy came back with, in 1994, he wanted a zombie-style horror film, similar to Night of the Living Dead, which also relied heavily upon elements of tragic romance and ambivalence of identity. That didn't really work out. It was considered too dark and too violent, and the studio wanted a more accessible picture, so that they wanted something lots of families could see. And I know these guys are looking at me because I have like 6 pages of stuff. I'm not going to talk about it all. Finally, in 1996, Universal hired Kevin Jarre to write a new screenplay. Stephen Sommers called he called Jax and Daniel, and those 2 guys that were attached to the project in 1997, with his vision of the mummy as kind of an Indiana Jones or Jason and the Argonauts, with the mummy as the creature giving the hero a hard time. Sommers had seen the original film when he was 8, and he wanted to recreate the things he liked about it on a bigger scale. He said, Frankenstein made me sad, and I always felt sorry for him. Dracula was kind of cool and sexy, but the mummy just plain scared me. And so he wanted to make that film. And so at that point, he pitched his treatment to the studio, and the Universal liked it so much that they approved the concept and increased the budget. And so they offered the role of Rick O'Connell, who is the protagonist, to Tom Cruise, who was later cast in a reboot of the film, which was terrible. The reboot was terrible.
I watched 15 minutes of it, and I was like, no, this isn't a mummy movie.
No, it was not. So they offered it to Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, and Ben Affleck, but the actors were not interested or could not fit the role into their respective schedules. So they were really impressed with a little movie called George of the Jungle, who starred Brendan Fraser.
The greatest movie ever made.
That's right.
Yes.
And they were particularly impressed with the box office that movie brought in. So Brendan Fraser was cast, and he understood that his character doesn't take himself too seriously. Otherwise, the audience can't go on that journey with him. Mm-hmm. Then they hired Rachel Weisz. She had to audition multiple times before she came on as the librarian. I can't remember her name now. Anyway, they hired her. She's an excellent actress. She wasn't really a fan of the horror film genre, but she thought the movie was more like a hokum comic book, just lots of fun. Mm-hmm. They hired another guy, John Hannah, and then they hired Arnold Vosloo, who is a South African actor. He really liked the script, but he wanted to play the role absolutely straight. Mm-hmm. From Imhotep's point of view, this is a skewed version of Romeo and Juliet, and he auditioned one time and was offered the role.
The fact that he plays it so straight is
perfect.
Important. Yeah.
Pretty good.
He's a perfect foil for the Rick O'Connell humor and, that whole thing. He was carrying around some extra weight, and so he lost 10 to 15 pounds because of Imhotep's skimpy costume. So there's a couple of things that made me kind of think about the curse of this. They're remaking this mummy movie, and all of that. They filmed first in Morocco, and then they filmed in the Sahara, and so the scorching heat of the Sahara, they had to drink something that the medical crew put together to keep themselves hydrated. And sandstorms came every day. They had sandstorms. Wildlife were a major problem. The crew members had to be airlifted to medical care after being bitten or stung. Brendan Fraser nearly died in a scene when he is hung.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
And the production had the official support of the Royal Moroccan Army because the cast members had kidnapping insurance taken out on them because of So then they moved back to England. They used a lot of digital, what do they call that? Digital production stuff. Mm-hmm. They made, but Arnold Vosloo as the mummy did all of the motion capture for it. He did all of that. So enthusiasm for the film was low. Not a lot of, oh, yay, until Universal took out a television spot during the Super Bowl. And it reportedly cost $1.6 million. Immediately after that, the discussion switched to anticipation and excitement for the film. The problem was there was a little film called The Phantom Menace, a.k.a. Star Wars, coming out at the same time. And so they switched their release date to not coincide on that weekend. The Mummy was the #1 film in the United States and Canada on its opening weekend. And overall, internationally, it grossed over $418 million. Well, I'm just going to read one quick little thing from Rotten Tomatoes. So this is the Rotten Tomatoes summary. It's difficult to make a persuasive argument for The Mummy as any kind of meaningful cinematic achievement, but it's undeniably fun to watch. It spawned so many sequels. There's 3 of The Mummy itself: The Mummy Returns, and The Mummy, The Tomb of the Dragon Empire. And then there's The Scorpion King. And then there's The Scorpion King 2, 3, 4, and 5.
What?
There was also an animated series, The Mummy. Then Universal tried to do it again, reboot it, and it bombed. It bombed. And as Harrison mentioned, I barely made it through that. And the whole time I'm going, this isn't a mummy film. This isn't wrong. But it did kind of cool. It was kind of cool because there's a scene in the film where Russell Crowe appears as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And I think there was they were trying to give a feel of, oh, this is where we're going next. And I wish that they had been able to do that, because I really, that was a movie I'd watch.
They're trying to do the Marvel thing and tie everything together. I thought The Invisible Man was good. I thought it was an interesting direction they took with that. I haven't finished watching The Wolf Man. I couldn't finish watching the new Mummy.
Yeah. The one that I really like from that Universal Monster Studios is Kong Skull Island. That's if I need
Jack Black.
It's got Samuel L. Jackson. It's got Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson.
Oh, more recent. Okay.
Yeah, it's very recent. Yeah. Okay. Kong Skull Island. There is King Kong. But Kong Skull Island specifically was in that Universal kind of kingdom thing, I think. But as monster movies go, I would say hands down, The Mummy is one of those movies that I will watch multiple times. I can quote. I It makes me laugh every time. It's one of those I put on in my periphery because I can look at it and go, I know exactly where they are in the movie. It's one of my favorites. There is also, I found two, I'm just going to speak about two different movies that are totally different. There's one called, but with one of my favorite actors who does all kinds of campy stuff, good old Bruce Campbell. We got to love the guy. He's funny. He does all sorts of wackadoo things.
Hail to the king, baby.
Yes. He did a movie in 2002 called Bubba Hotep. Okay? I know. It's a comedy horror film. The idea is that it stars Bruce Campbell as Sebastian Haff, a man residing in a nursing home who claims to be the real Elvis Presley. And it evolves around an ancient Egyptian mummy terrorizing a retirement home. But it also deals with deeper themes of aging, identity, morality, and existentialism. It has Ossie Davis
as JFK.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. So
it was the first date that I went on with my wife just to see Bubba Hotep in the theater.
That's great.
Oh my gosh. And you said she hated it, right?
She is not a fan of Bubba Hotep. I love Bubba Hotep. I love Bruce Campbell. Ossie Davis is great.
Yeah.
As believes himself to be JFK.
Right.
I enjoy it. It's directed by Don Coscarelli, who did Phantasm.
Yeah.
And
you
it's
know
funny.
more about it than I do.
It's really funny, I think.
But I thought the funny thing was that Ossie Davis as Jack, a black man who claims to be Jack Kennedy, explaining that he was patched up after the assassination, died black and abandoned. And I thought that's comedy gold right there. So anyway, the other one is there's a Disney movie too, which I thought it was worth mentioning. It's called Under Wraps, and it's just a fun take on the mummy, who is not a villain. He's a good guy, and makes friends with. There's several. I think that also spawned a sequel. I think there's another one. So as you can tell, I like the Mummy movie, and I just thought it's interesting as a remake of the original 1932. They really played off of all of that. And one of the nice things about it is set in the 1920s. It's not set in modern times, and I think that makes it even more charming and quirky.
They used to have a ride at Universal where you could go through the mummy world, and they had the scarabs that come out, and then there's like an air that came on your legs, and I was like, I was like, they're gonna eat me. I just know it. But I remember going on that ride as a kid in Universal.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's still there, but it was very fun.
Yeah. So that's what I've got, and we have those movies in the library.
Check them out.
And I want to talk about Karis a little bit.
Yes.
I want to talk about the Universal sequels. But I do want to circle back to the Chinchorro mummies. I'm kind of checking the case that I'm making. And I'm curious about the current situation with the Chinchorro mummies, if they're mostly preserved at the site or where
they're mostly preserved at the site. But I was reading more, and there's actually adults too. Not just children, but there's adult mummies also. But they're mostly preserved at the site. There are a tiny fraction in a museum, and there were plans to build a bigger museum to house them. But people live alongside them, and then there are archaeologists and historians who want to be alerted when people find something.
Cool. So there's still like surface finds happening where more of the site is being
and it's a
discovered.
UNESCO heritage site.
Cool.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah. So I'm going to go off on my Karis rant.
I'm ready.
All right. So we've got the first Mummy movie with Boris Karloff, the Universal one. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of that one because it's barely a mummy movie. Like you said, he's a mummy for like 10 seconds. He grabs something off a desk and he's on his way to being spooky Boris Karloff. I love Boris Karloff. He does a great job. It is a good movie, but it's not really a mummy movie as we would understand it now. The not sequels, but follow-up films are like, sorry, I drank the rest of the ginger beer and it's still happening. The image of, the lumbering, strangling mummy. Those come from the movies about the mummy Charis, who was trying to bring his girlfriend back from the dead with the Tana leaves. The priestly order discovers him, has him cursed and entombed, and keeps him forever as an attack dog to protect the tomb of the Princess Ananka. And it gets into some weird places. He travels around. He ends up in Massachusetts. He ends up in Louisiana. So it's four films about Charis. The Mummy's Hand from 1940, in which he was played by Tom Tyler, the Western film actor. And then in the follow-ups, The Mummy's Tomb from 1942, The Mummy's Ghost from 1944, and The Mummy's Curse from 1944 also starred Lon Chaney Jr. as Charis. I love Charis. I have a whole head canon built around Charis that makes sense of these movies because he didn't ask for any of this, right? It's not like Imhotep where he's back and he's got a plan. He has his full agency as a person and he's got an angle and he's working it. He just happens to be a mummy, and Imhotep does. Charis just got roped into this deal. He's bound by evil magic to attack people, and he has very little agency. He's a tragic figure. I think he should be the hero of that story, right? Because the tomb is getting disturbed by kind of the Hollywood version of archaeology, which unfortunately sometimes resembles the older version of real world archaeology, where sometimes things are getting removed from sites, taken from, comes very close at least to tomb robbing. And, as opposed to the modern age where, the sovereignty over artifacts and, there's repatriation of artifacts that have been taken out of, from the places that they were taken from. And so, Charis, his stuff is getting messed with. And he's getting sent after people for disturbing the tombs, taking stuff out of it. He himself is getting moved around sometimes, although by the priesthood sometimes is doing this, moving him around. But he just wants his girlfriend back. Right. And the deal is if he eats 9 of the magical Tana leaves, he's free. He'll be uncontrollable. And the priests can't tell him what to do anymore. Right. And he'll go after, if he spills the leaf juice, he gets down on his hands and knees and he's trying to lick it off the floor. He wants to be free. He just has no control. He doesn't want to be killing all these people necessarily. Right. And I think when he turns on the priests, it's because they step out of line. I think he's got a programmed hit list of people, and it kind of aligns with the people he's after because he wants the princess back. But when the priest goes rogue, he goes right after the priest. I think he'd want to kill them all, but he can't until he finds a loophole. So this is all in my head, by the way. This is me imagining what it's like for Charis the mummy. Right. And I also think when people don't notice him grunting and dragging himself up behind them, I'm just trying to help you watch these movies, right? And you're how does that guy not know that there's a mummy 2 feet away from him going, "Rah!" And why does he not turn around? I think the magical ability that Charis has, I think he can see everybody's sensory field. He doesn't have to sneak around. He can see exactly the periphery of everybody's field of vision. He can see acoustic shadows. He doesn't have to sneak around because he knows exactly where you're going to not notice him. Oh. That's my headcanon to help you enjoy these movies that are really ridiculous because he is not sneaky at all. And yet his whole thing is walking up behind a guy who's outside smoking and just being and the guy doesn't turn around until he's got his hand on his throat. It makes no sense. Yeah. So, but the point that I'm circling back to has to do, I put my notes down. I have to get them back because I need them. Why are Egyptian mummies movie monsters? And bog people are not movie monsters, except for that one movie that I like that nobody else likes called From the Dark from 2014. It's an Irish bog vampire movie. Or, mummies from South America or mummies from like Otzi the Iceman. They made a biographical movie about him, but you don't have alpine frozen men coming after you. You just have Encino Man, again, with Brendan Fraser.
Right.
He's a hero.
Another great movie.
And I think the reason that Egyptian mummies become monsters in the Western imagination has to do with something from Mary Douglas in her 1966 book, Purity and Danger, an Analysis of Concepts of Pollution and Taboo. And she put forward the idea that what is contamination in a society, is any matter considered out of place. And so against a backdrop of a history where Egyptian mummies are being taken out of Egypt by Western countries, where the bodies of people are actually being eaten and used as paint, the Egyptian mummy is out of place. It becomes a taboo. It becomes something dangerous. And so it's kind of like that Principal Skinner meme, no, it's the children who are wrong, where he's second guessing himself. I think it's a case where there's some acknowledgement that these are the bodies of actual people who historically have been taken out of where they belong. They've been misused by other cultures, and that flips somewhere in the culture, like the story of the curse. That's all that kicked this off, is the idea you disturbed this tomb and now you're cursed.
Right.
It's halfway to a reflection of, well, maybe people have been mishandling these bodies and these artifacts and we can do something about it. It becomes, no, it's the mummy that's evil. It's the mummies coming after me. What if it gets mad, right?
Right.
It's kind of an unacknowledged post-colonial anxiety or some sense of societal guilt about this, as opposed to the bog bodies. They're in museums near where they were found. The Chinchorro mummies, those sites are protected, like you said, and they are in the places where they belong. They're not far. They're from the descendant nations and cultures descended from.
They're not
themselves.
in the British Museum.
They're not in the British Museum. Yeah. And they're held for the whole world to see and learn about, but they're held in respect and understanding. And Egyptian mummies, I think we're getting to that point now with things, but historically they weren't. And so that displacement leads to kind of the further issue of them being vilified. And so that's my feeling about why Egyptian mummies are that. And I also want to clarify, I'm not saying that mummy movies are bad or you shouldn't enjoy them. I love them.
Right.
But kind of trying to figure these things out and take kind of a critical view of why stories exist. It's a way of understanding the things you love. And is to think about them and why they are the way they are. And I love a mummy movie. I love a mummy story.
I think too, go with me on this.
Yeah.
So bog bodies and the mummies in South America weren't necessarily found with gold and jewels and precious things.
You're right.
And so they weren't quite as romanticized, perhaps, as the whole Egyptian culture would have been.
Right.
So, and I know there has been an effort, and honestly, I'm going to be ignorant here and say I don't know what the status is of a lot of the things that were in the British Museum and where they are now. But I know that there was a very much that Egypt said, no, these belong to us, and they were given back many things. But I think there are private collectors who still continue to collect whatever they can get their hands on. But the point being, I guess, is that I don't know that they viewed mummies as human bodies more than they viewed them as something to be exploited, sold, and put on display.
And consumed.
And consumed. Although, yeah. So, I mean, that I think that there is that certain, this fascination with something so very, very different from British culture. The gold and the jewels and the things that they found in the tombs. And I know that when I saw King Tut's tomb, the artifacts from that were copies made, and the originals were back in Egypt. And so that was when they were touring. And but I think there's something to be said about that. We don't view this as humanity. We view this as a creature to be feared, or something to be that's so different from us. And everybody has a fear of. I mean, well, maybe not everybody, but I mean, what's the creepiest thing you can think of happening in a tomb? Is the mummy coming after you? I mean, there's some that's a scare thing, it's like Frankenstein's monster coming to life, and that
played by the same guy,
right? And
so it makes sense. Yeah.
The fascination with life after death, and the fear of that. I mean, there's a whole collective. There's lots to think about in that. That whole thing.
Yeah. And the Egyptian understanding of what happens if you don't make it into the afterlife was annihilation. You either go to the duat and you go to the afterlife, but if your heart's too heavy with sin and it gets eaten by Amit, then you don't go to a bad place. You're just dead, in the way that someone with like a more mechanistic understanding of consciousness would understand it. Experience stops. That was the thing that people feared. That was the punishment that people feared if they didn't live a good life. So that's another thing, is living. It was you either live forever in the afterlife or you're gone.
So yeah, there's a whole lot to think about in terms of that.
And I'll offer maybe kind of a counter argument to my own premise here, my thesis here, that, there's a lot of the Egyptian mummies that have been preserved are the people who can afford that quote unquote most perfect procedure. So you've got royalty, you've got aristocrats, you've got highly placed political people. So the mummies that we know by name still are the bodies of people who, when they were alive, were potentially dangerous. They were politically powerful people, as opposed to, somebody who's been buried in a cemetery by their family, or somebody who is found in a bog and all we know about them is that they were killed. And you're not getting exposition out of a bog body. You're like, for the sake of your fictional story, nobody's going to say, oh, they say he was this, because there are no stories.
Right.
Like with a mummy, you have that. You have, he was a prince and he did all kinds of evil and he's back to do more evil. But with individual stories from a cemetery or a bog, you don't. You just know that they died, and that alone is not necessarily enough to.
Yeah. Because the in the movie The Mummy, the one I was talking about, the story in that is that this person, Imhotep, went against his religious beliefs, or what he was a priest, to attempt to bring back Ankh-Sanamun. And there's a whole section of that movie that reenacts that whole process, and that's why he was buried alive or mummified alive. That's why he's still gooey when they find him. I mean, there's a whole story there. And the idea that he was cursed, to come back as, but in the movie, all he really wants to do is find his girlfriend. You're right. It's kind of the premise. But he's going to do it at the cost of everybody else. Yep. So anyway, have we beaten the mummies to death?
To death.
Does that work? Is that an option?
No, I don't think so.
That would be, there'd be a movie.
I don't think so. Anyway, that's it for Halloween, right? So you can listen to this one.
Final thoughts, Sophia? I feel like I've been doing a whole lot of talking on
I was
this.
thinking about what you said. I feel like I'm realizing it's very Eurocentric
Mm-hmm.
to vilify these mummies, right? And it's very othering.
Yeah.
Othering these other cultures and practices when really they took advantage, right? And robbed their graves and used them as medicine, but then vilified the very medicine that they used. It's very colonialism, imperialism,
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing it in a different light now that we've talked about all these different facets.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know how, maybe I should finish watching the Tom Cruise mummy movie, because I'm wondering how the perspective has changed, it being more recent.
I honestly don't remember.
Okay. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just leave the conversation at those earlier films.
It's more about it's not a mummy movie. I think it is misnamed. So
I'm hoping maybe someday we can get a new kind of mummy movie. Maybe like, you know what? Here's what I want. I want to see a in Egyptian production or international co-production with a mummy as the hero. Like to add that to the pile of mummy movies. I think that would be cool. I think that's a mummy movie we haven't gotten yet.
Could be. Could be.
I don't know.
Who knows?
It would be interesting to make them, well, in some ways, well, no. But yeah, the mummy you could have the story of the mummy accidentally being brought back to life accidentally, and then they apologize and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. What can we do for you?"
Or he gets
Is there something you want?
Or he gets his girlfriend back.
Right.
And it's just a
Together
story of
they
him
are.
trying to figure out how to communicate in the modern world and figure out how to get back to what he wanted. I think he's naturally the hero. I think Karis is naturally the hero of that story.
There you go. There you
I
go.
don't know.
The more
Yep.
you know.
Yep. Well, he's gotten a bad rap.
Mm-hmm.
Pun intended.
Hashtag Karis did nothing wrong.
But I'm
Okay.
Is that a rap?
Is that a... Oh! The Free Bin is a production of the Toledo Public Library, which is part of the Lincoln County Library District in beautiful Lincoln County, Oregon. Writing by Cindy Bilek, Sophia Kahn, and Harrison Baker. Original music by Harrison Baker. Editing by Harrison Baker and Sophia Kahn. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect those of any organization they represent. Good night.